Something quiet is happening to the American coffee chain, and almost no one wants to name the reason. We keep being told people ran out of money, but that's not what the receipts say. These 15 coffee chains didn't lose you because you went broke. They lost you because the cup stopped feeling worth the money. They pushed prices, gutted the perks, and turned loyalty into a transaction, and in 2026, the bill for all that greed came due. Number 15. Gloria Jean's Coffees. There was a time when Gloria Jean's was a fixture of the American mall, that warm vanilla and cinnamon smell pulling you in while you shopped. For a whole generation, a flavored latte from Gloria Jean's was the little treat that turned an ordinary errand into a small reward. You weren't just buying coffee, you were buying 10 minutes of feeling looked after. But somewhere along the way, the brand stopped reading the room. As the malls it depended on emptied out, Gloria Jean's leaned even harder on premium flavored drinks and gift shop pricing instead of fixing the basics, and its US footprint quietly shrank toward irrelevance even as the name kept thriving overseas. The lesson is brutal, and it repeats all the way up this list. When a coffee brand decides its customers exist to be upsold rather than served, those customers eventually just stop showing up. Gloria Jean's wasn't killed by a bad economy. It was hollowed out by a strategy that treated a daily ritual like a luxury impulse buy, and the American shopper, tired of being squeezed, simply moved on. Which brings us to a name that made almost the same mistake one decade later. Number 14. Coffee Beanery. Coffee Beanery is one of those names that older coffee drinkers remember with real affection. A family-built chain that once felt like the friendly neighborhood answer to the big corporate machines. That was the whole promise: warmth and consistency without the attitude. A place where the person behind the counter might actually know your order. But over the years, the franchise model strained. Locations thinned out across the country, and the experience stopped matching the memory. Prices crept upward to chase the premium crowd, yet the cozy, personal feel that once justified those prices slowly disappeared, leaving customers paying specialty money for a cup that no longer felt special. What's left is a cautionary tale about charging like a boutique while operating like an afterthought. People will happily pay more for something that feels like a small luxury. What they will not do, not anymore, is pay more for the exact same cup served with noticeably less care. Coffee Beanery faded not because Americans fell out of love with good coffee, but because the brand quietly stopped giving them a reason to choose it over the dozen cheaper options on the same street. That widening gap between what you pay and what you feel is the through line of this entire list, and it's exactly what caught up with a brand that once defined coffee for an entire coast. Number 13. The coffee bean and tea leaf. For decades, the coffee bean and tea leaf was the California icon that genuinely rivaled Starbucks. The place where the original ice-blended drink was a real cultural moment long before frappes were everywhere. People loved it. It had a personality you could taste. But personality is fragile the moment ownership starts treating a brand as an asset to squeeze rather than a community to keep. As the chain changed hands and chased efficiency, US locations quietly closed, the menu lost its edge, and that once distinct character blurred into just another overpriced cup in a crowded market. Loyal customers noticed the drinks getting a little smaller and the prices getting a lot bigger, and they ran the same quiet math everyone on this list eventually runs. The coffee bean never ran out of fans. It ran out of reasons to give them, trading the very thing that made it worth seeking out for one more point of margin. On a spreadsheet, that trade looks harmless. On the street, it's the difference between a line out the door and a leasing sign taped to the window. The next brand made that exact trade, only it did it while charging even more for the privilege. Number 12. La Colombe. La Colombe built its entire name on craft, the third-wave darling whose silky draft lattes felt like a real step above anything the chains were pouring. That reputation for quality was the whole value, the only thing that justified the premium. But once a craft brand gets absorbed into a far larger business and pushed hard to scale, the temptation is always identical. Lean on the premium image while quietly trimming the substance that earned it. Cans multiplied on grocery shelves, while the cafe experience that built the prestige got less and less attention. Customers, paying a genuine premium for a craft cup, slowly started to feel like they were paying for a logo rather than a difference they could actually taste. And the instant a premium brand stops feeling premium, its whole pricing structure caves in, because there's suddenly nothing left to justify the gap. La Colombe never failed at making coffee. It got caught betting that its hard-won reputation would keep carrying the price tag long after the substance behind that price had quietly thinned out. It's a delicate, expensive bet, and the loud drive-through brands were busy making a much brasher version of the very same one. Number 11, Scooter's Coffee. Scooters exploded across the Midwest on a simple, likable promise: fast, friendly drive-through coffee from people who seemed glad to see you. The franchising machine ran hot, new kiosks appearing on corners almost overnight, and for a while, the breakneck growth story was the entire story everyone wanted to tell. But expansion that fast has a way of outrunning the basics that made the brand worth visiting. As locations multiplied, prices climbed steadily into premium territory. The sugary signature drinks crept upward, and the everyday value that once made Scooters feel like the smart local alternative quietly got squeezed out. When a drive-through that sold itself on being the friendly, affordable option starts charging big chain money for a cup of liquid dessert, its regulars start asking the one question no brand wants to hear: what am I actually paying extra for here? Scooters is a sharp reminder that growth and health are not the same thing. You can plant 1,000 shiny kiosks and still lose the customer the second your price outruns your promise. And that exact pattern, treating rapid expansion as proof of invincibility, is precisely what's now quietly haunting a far more beloved name built on doing the opposite. Number 10, Phil's Coffee. Phil's was different, and being different was the entire point. Each cup was made one at a time, blended by hand, with a barista who actually asked how you liked it and adjusted until it was right. In a world of automated machines and rushed counters, it felt genuinely human, and people fell hard for it. Then came the outside money and the mandate to grow fast, and the very thing that made Phil's magic, that slow, personal, one cup at a time soul, turned out to be the one thing that refused to scale. New stores opened quickly, then some just as quietly closed. Wait times stretched, the warmth thinned, and prices stayed stubbornly high even as the experience drifted toward ordinary. Phil's walked straight into the oldest trap on this list, taking something customers adored precisely because it wasn't mass-produced and then trying to mass-produce it anyway. You cannot bottle intimacy and sell it at scale without watering it down. And customers taste that dilution on the very first sip. Phil's didn't lose its way because Americans stopped wanting better coffee. It lost its way chasing a size that its whole human promise was never designed to survive. The next brand was supposed to be far too refined to ever stumble into a mistake that obvious. Number 9, Blue Bottle Coffee. Blue Bottle was the connoisseur's badge, the brand that quietly told the world you took your coffee seriously, now owned by one of the largest food companies on the planet. Its entire identity was built on purity and craft, which is exactly why its greedier moves cut so deep. The push toward cashless-only counters told a real slice of customers, in the plainest possible terms, that their business simply wasn't wanted. $6 pour-overs and an air of careful exclusivity worked beautifully, while the experience still felt transcendent. But the moment it started to feel merely expensive, the whole spell shattered. Blue Bottle is the high-end edition of the lesson stamped across every name here. Premium pricing only survives as long as the customer truly believes the premium is real. Charge luxury money, then nickel and dime the experience or wall it off behind policies that effectively say, keep out. And you don't read as exclusive anymore. You read as greedy. And a coffee devotee who feels quietly played is the single fastest customer in the world to walk one block down and hand their loyalty to someone humbler and warmer, which is the same wound that even the established mid-premium regional favorites couldn't manage to avoid. Number 8, Caribou Coffee. Caribou was Minnesota's heartfelt answer to Starbucks, the cabin-warm chain with the fireplace feel and the wood-paneled coziness that loyal Midwesterners genuinely preferred to the Green Giant. That warmth was its entire edge, the reason people drove past 3 other options to get there. But as Caribou was folded into a much larger coffee empire and pushed relentlessly for efficiency, that soul of the Northwoods identity slowly started feeling like marketing copy rather than something you could actually feel in the room. Prices climbed to match the big players, while the cozy difference that justified them quietly faded, and in plenty of markets, the once familiar neighborhood locations simply vanished without much ceremony. Caribou proves that even a deeply beloved regional brand isn't safe. The second a chain decides its distinct, loyal community can be treated like an interchangeable revenue stream, that hard-earned loyalty begins to drain straight out of the cup. People didn't abandon Caribou because they suddenly hated good coffee. They left because the thing they were actually loyal to, the feeling, got quietly cost-engineered out of the experience while the receipt kept climbing. The next name spent a full century building exactly that kind of trust and is now spending it down alarmingly fast. Number 7, Peet's Coffee. Peet's is, in a very real sense, the grandfather of American specialty coffee. The deep, dark, uncompromising roast that taught the entire country what serious coffee was supposed to taste like decades before the rivals it directly inspired. That heritage is genuinely priceless, and that's precisely why leaning on it is so tempting and so quietly dangerous. Peet's has increasingly relied on premium pricing and its old prestige, while expansion stayed cautious, and the everyday customer felt the very same squeeze they feel absolutely everywhere now. A little less value, a slightly bigger receipt, every single visit. A heritage brand can coast on pure reputation for a remarkably long time, but coasting, however graceful it looks, is still just slowing down. When the cup costs more every year while the reason to pay that price gets visibly thinner, even decades of deep goodwill start to quietly erode at the edges. Peet's is not collapsing tomorrow, and it would be dishonest to say it is. But it's a textbook case of a brand monetizing its own legacy noticeably faster than it's renewing it. And that is a debt that, on this list, always comes due eventually. The next brand tried to monetize its legacy across an entire international border, and the strain showed almost immediately. Number 6. Tim Hortons in the United States. In Canada, Tim Hortons is practically a national institution, woven into the daily rhythm of an entire country. In America, it became a stark case study in how corporate greed can slowly strangle a brand from the inside. After the chain landed under the same ownership group as several other fast food giants, US franchisees publicly accused the parent company of squeezing them hard, piling on cost and fees, while real support and quality quietly slipped. Franchisees openly fighting their own brand in court is never a small thing. It's a flashing red sign that the people standing closest to the customer feel the entire model has tilted toward extraction rather than partnership. American locations struggled and shuddered while loyalists kept insisting the coffee and the experience just weren't anywhere near what they were up north. Tim Hortons in the US is what happens when a brand gets run as a machine for pulling cash out of its operators instead of a promise being made to its guests. Customers can't always name the corporate fight happening behind the counter, but they can absolutely taste the result of it in a worse cup sold at a higher price. The next brand, rather than squeezing its operators, decided to turn the loyal customer themselves into the thing worth squeezing. Number 5. Pret a Manger in the United States. Pret made a genuinely clever opening move with its coffee subscription. a flat monthly fee for several barista drinks a day that, for a glorious while, felt like a real gift handed to the daily commuter. People genuinely loved it. It was a concrete reason to walk straight past every other coffee shop on the block without a second glance. And then came the part of the corporate playbook that quietly torches all that goodwill: the squeeze. The terms shifted, the price climbed, and the perks that made the whole deal feel so generous got steadily trimmed, leaving longtime subscribers feeling like they'd been lured in with an irresistible sweetheart rate only to get repriced the moment they were safely hooked. That is the single mechanism that breaks customer trust the fastest, because it confirms their deepest suspicion that the generosity was never real, only ever bait. Prit's US ambitions ran into plenty of other headwinds too. But the subscription whiplash is the part customers felt personally in their own wallets. Win someone over with real value, then yank that value away the instant they're committed, and you don't merely lose a single sale. You manufacture an enemy who happily tells everyone they know. And a much bigger, much more familiar brand ran almost exactly the same subscription play at enormous scale. Number 4, Panera Bread's Coffee Club. Panera isn't a pure coffee chain, but its Unlimited Sip Club was a direct, deliberate shot straight at the coffee giants: unlimited drip, hot tea, iced drinks, and more for one strikingly low monthly price. It was genuinely brilliant, and for a real stretch, it was beloved, right up until the moment it abruptly wasn't. The monthly price went up, the fine print quietly expanded, and the deal that once felt like an obvious no-brainer slowly started feeling like a trap that was gently tightening around you with every billing cycle. Worse still, Panera's caffeine adventure with its notoriously charged lemonade drew serious lawsuits and ugly national headlines, and was ultimately pulled from the menu entirely. A blunt reminder of what happens when chasing buzz and margin quietly overrides plain old caution about the customer's well-being. Panera's coffee story is the subscription trap captured in miniature. Hook people with genuine generosity, then quietly convert that very generosity into a revenue lever the second the daily habit is fully formed. Customers will forgive an honest price. What they simply will not forgive is the creeping feeling of being slowly farmed for recurring income. And once that particular feeling sets in, no cheerful app notification or rewards email ever wins them all the way back. The top 3 names ran this entire playbook at the largest scale of all. Number 3, Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros is the energetic upstart, the drive-through with the loud, relentlessly friendly crews, and the sugary, endlessly customizable blended drinks that Gen Z adopted not as a coffee but as a whole lifestyle. Wall Street fell head over heels, the stock soared after its splashy debut, and the expansion has been genuinely relentless. Bright new stands appearing in market after market after market. But here's the quiet risk humming underneath all the hype. Dutch Bros is fundamentally selling expensive, dessert-grade caffeine to younger customers who happen to be exactly the people getting squeezed hardest by the runaway cost of everything else in their lives. The brand's entire momentum quietly depends on those customers continuing to treat a $4 or $5 sugar bomb as a sacred daily ritual, rather than the very first small luxury they cut the moment budgets tighten. Growth moving that fast invites the precise same overreach that toppled the brands above it. Prices drifting steadily upward, the experience getting noticeably thinner as overworked crews stretch to cover demand. The friendly magic getting harder to genuinely deliver at every single new location. Dutch Bros is not falling apart today, but it is betting its whole future on the fragile idea that loyalty will somehow survive the exact moment its young customers finally sit down and do the math. And that very bet has already broken names far bigger than this one. Just like the brand that practically invented the affordable coffee promise in the first place. Number 2, Dunkin. Dunkin built an entire empire on one unspoken ironclad contract: you the regular working person, can comfortably afford this. It was the unfancy, get in, get out, no nonsense blue collar coffee that millions of Americans built their whole mornings around precisely because it never tried to be expensive or impressive. Then, somewhere along the line, Dunkin' decided it quietly wanted Starbucks money. Prices crept steadily upward, the menu started chasing premium espresso drinks and elaborate seasonal concoctions. The rewards program got reworked in ways that left a lot of longtime members feeling genuinely shortchanged. And the affordable, dependable identity that was the entire point of the brand started visibly slipping away. That is the most self-destructive form of greed there is, abandoning the one single promise that made you irreplaceable in the first place. The very moment Dunkin' stopped being meaningfully cheaper than the premium guys, it casually handed away its only real competitive advantage and openly invited every loyal customer to ask why they were even bothering to stop. A working person's coffee that forgets it exists. For working people doesn't magically transform into a beloved luxury brand. It just becomes a slightly more expensive version of something people can make perfectly well at home. And so, increasingly, that's exactly what they're choosing to do. Which leaves only the one towering name that wrote this entire greedy playbook from the very beginning. Number 1, Starbucks. Starbucks never just sold coffee. It sold the third place, that intoxicating idea of somewhere between home and work where you could linger, relax, open a laptop, and feel like the cup was really buying you a small protected pocket of calm. For years, that feeling justified almost any price they cared to charge. Then the empire got greedy with the one and only thing it truly couldn't afford to lose: the experience itself. Drinks drifted towards $7 and $8. Mobile orders piled up far faster than deliberately understaffed crews could ever make them, turning the calm sanctuary into a frantic, chaotic pickup counter where nobody lingered and nobody felt looked after. The comfort, the warmth, the quiet human moment, all of it got methodically engineered out in the relentless name of throughput and margin, even as the tip screen swung around at the register demanding still more from you. Customers ran the same brutal math millions upon millions of times over. Making it at home is cheaper, it's faster, and frankly, it's better. And the everyday magic that once made the premium feel genuinely worth it simply wasn't sitting there in the cup anymore. Starbucks has spent its recent years openly, almost desperately, trying to undo all of this, scrambling to bring back the seats, the warmth, the human pace it spent a full decade aggressively cutting, which is the loudest possible admission that the greed had gone way too far. And that single thread runs through every name on this entire list. None of these chains were ever truly killed by customers who ran out of money. They were quietly abandoned by customers who ran out of reasons. The price went up, the perks vanished, the service thinned, the screen demanded a tip, and somewhere in all of it, the cup simply stopped feeling worth it. In 2026, loyalty doesn't belong to the biggest brand or the oldest logo on the corner. It belongs to whoever still makes you feel like you walked away with more than you paid for. Every chain here forgot that, and the empty parking lots are just the bill finally arriving. If this opened your eyes, subscribe before the next one falls.